Okay, and we should be already live. So if you can please confirm in the chat, then you can hear us and you can see us. That would be great to ensure that everyone is here. But I see that people are joining, so that's great. So welcome everyone, and we'll just start. So my name is Jacob Kubrinski. I'm the CEO and founder at DevSkiller, and today we are going to talk about how the ChatGPT and basically the OpenAI products or some other products that were developed around AI a long time ago can revolutionize or storm the tech recruitment space. What you can do to protect, let's say, from this new threat. And today with me, I have also Tomek Nurkiewicz, who is the CDO at DevSkiller. So Tomek, if you can just say a few words about you, and then I will jump to the next slides.
Yes, so hello everyone. I'm Tomek or Tomasz, whatever you prefer. I'm a CTO, and I will show you a few examples of how ChatGPT and AI in general can help, but also whether it's more or less a threat to what developers are doing and what you as recruiters, tech recruiters, and managers are up to. So we'll see whether it's more like a tool, or maybe it's something wonderful that can revolutionize the way we do software development. So yes, please move on.
Yeah, and Tomek, you're running your online podcast when you're explaining some even sophisticated IT topics in like 256 seconds. So very round numbers. So if you could just do your best and right now elaborate a little bit about how and what it is and how it works, that would be great.
Thanks for plugging my podcast, by the way. Didn't expect that. So there are quite a few terms that you might have heard of, and you probably even use things like ChatGPT, and maybe heard about Copilot, OpenAI, and other stuff. So first of all, OpenAI is an organization. It was supposed to be a non-profit organization, whereas in reality, it actually started like sending some. Doing some more commercial stuff, but that's not important. The thing is that it's kind of a consortium that's building tools, and these tools are supposed to create a so-called general artificial intelligence, or like kind of a general purpose. But for the purpose of this presentation, let's focus on ChatGPT and let's focus on GitHub Copilot. So both of these tools are an artificial intelligence tools that essentially just look through every single possible source of text. In case of ChatGPT, it was like text like everywhere in the internet. In case of GitHub Copilot, it was purely source code found on GitHub. But the basic idea of these tools is that it's typically called crawled. So it means they went through all over the internet, just like Google or just like any other search engine. They went through the whole internet. They collected text from Reddit, from Wikipedia, from Stack Overflow, all these websites that are popular and that contain kind of a large body of knowledge. They collected all this text and they processed this text. So they trained their algorithms so that they sort of understand what is said there. Now, the reality is that these programs like ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot have no idea what this text is all about. So they can actually speak English, they can speak Polish, they can speak C++ or Python, but they have no idea what these languages actually are. They just have, like kind of build a net, kind of like a neural network or kind of like a large corpus of text. And from whatever they gathered all over the internet, they are capable of kind of figuring out that for a certain question, a certain answer is correct. It doesn't mean that they're just copy pasting whatever they found on the internet. They are more clever about it. So if you ask them a question that they have never seen in the internet, they can sort of match patterns of what they saw and come up with an answer that is surprisingly good in many in many cases. So I believe we have at least a few examples. So let's start with one that will actually show us that there's really no magic. So here is an example of ChatGPT. And we asked it, don't really bother about the source code. It's not really important. But the thing is, and what we found really interesting is that when we asked it to create, to invert a binary tree, which is like a fairly popular recruitment task. So you might even heard about it if you don't really know what is it. But the point is that it actually produced a valid Java code. But what's really funny about it is that by mistake, or maybe not, it actually pointed to the source website where it collected the knowledge from. So it's this link in the comment. It says sourcegeeks4geeks.org/ blah 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 blah. And the funny part is that it's true. So this website actually exists. It has a slightly different link, but doesn't matter. But this website contains a solution in a different programming language, in C. So that's the whole point of this kind of secret sauce of AI. It's not just a different way of Googling stuff. So if you Google for inverting a binary tree in Java, you will find this page. No, you will find this page, but the solution will be implemented in different language. So what this artificial intelligence did is it actually translated the solution found in the internet from one language to another. So think about translating from French to Italian. It did the same from Java or from C to Java, two rather different programming languages. And it did it correctly, even though this artificial intelligence doesn't know on its own what is Java, what is French, what is Italian. So, so on one hand, you see that there is a little bit of intelligence here, or actually quite a lot. But on the other hand, there is no magic here. There is no like huge magic oracle that knows everything. It just scavenged the data from all over the internet, and somehow, I don't know, by mistake, we can even see the exact website it copied the solution from. It's kind of a rare,
the funny thing is
rare
here
occasion.
that by looking at the source code, you can say that it was like translated from C++ to Java, or it was implemented by a C++ developer in Java, just by the the syntax, right? You never like start the line in Java with parentheses. You are like always leaving it at the end of the previous one. So that's something that is also like done with all like the human errors possible here. And yeah, it's not using any like particular syntax from Java that's not existing in in C, because then it won't be a translation. It will be more like to adopt this one, and it's not adopted. It's simply translated, right?
Yeah. So as you can see, and thanks for that. As you can see, this is actually a pretty clever solution, but the point is it's not really flawless. So it can actually produce very, very funny mistakes. So Kuba, if you can move on with like showing us a few things that where AI failed miserably.
Yeah. So here you will be able to see like how AI work in effect. So here is like a funny image about open like or AI in general, like trying to measure a cow based on the image. So of course you as a human, as a real intelligence, you can say, okay, probably it's not the one cow, it's two cows, but they're hidden by this small building. But AI is not able to do that. AI is like trained based on the data set. And probably there were no data sets talking about cows being hidden by the building. So it's see like there is a head, there is like a rest of the cow. So I assume that by measuring that, and by assuming what's the average, I don't know, like height of the cow, I can estimate how it works. And now let's a small trick. Do you know what the AI was asked here to generate? Before it was like it generated this image. So you have any clue? Like write it in the comments. However,
to be honest, the image looks like really authentic. So I could imagine this was actually a picture taken somewhere in the mountains, but that's not the case. It was generated. So can you tell what was the prompt? What was the AI asked for?
So it was, of course, salmon in the swimming in the river, right? And like when you take a look at Google and you try to Google for salmon, then like, of course, like most of the images are like the salmon that we used to eat, not the one that is like, in its life in the nature, etc. And AI does not know about that. AI is not trying to understand the content of that. I said, okay, that's how the salmon looks. I learned it by Googling. That's how the river looks. I learned it by Googling. So like now I will like combine these two elements, and I came up with that. And of course, as a human, we are able to say that something is wrong here, but AI is not a human. It's something that just like connects different data sets, puts them together, and is pretty sure at this moment that it did a perfect job. If you try talking to ChatGPT or OpenAI in general, it's always like so confident and so sure that it's right, like a small kid, and like the age is probably similar. And Tomek, you have also like a pretty nice example.
Yeah, I actually like I actually like this term of calling ChatGPT a mansplaining as a service, because it's like extremely confident even when it gives wrong answers. So in this case, it was actually correct, but we managed to convince it that he actually is not. He or she. Well, I'm actually impersonating the thing, but anyway, so it knew that 1 + 1 = 2. That's fine, but you can convince it that that's not the case. I also saw examples where it couldn't like solve the simplest riddles, the simplest puzzles, or even the simplest like math equations. So another example is that was it like, what is -1 times -1? It was claiming it's still -1, so it couldn't really do the math. So you can make a conversation with that chatbot. You just never know whether it's correct or not, because it can be extremely confident when it makes a mistake. It can come up with facts that are not true. For example, it can imagine scientific papers that never existed, but they look convincing and the titles look convincing. So it's a really great tool. You just have to take a little bit of take it with a grain of salt. So moving on. So what is it? Is it actually useful? And let's concentrate on developers, because we're here in the recruitment space. So let's think about developers and how it can work for them. So I'll first explain you the concept of autocompletion or autocomplete or IntelliSense. It actually exists for like 40 years. It first appeared around 1980s. But the basic idea is, and this is what you see at the top here, the basic idea is that when a developer writes code, no one uses like the plain editor like Notepad or something, or Word, for writing documents. Developers use much more sophisticated editors. Very often they're commercial and paid. And these editors quite often give a lot of sophisticated suggestions. Like every time you type something, they give you more or less correct suggestions, like what should go next, what should be the next word, what are the possibilities at this point. And this makes our life much easier. And if you find it hard to grasp how does it work, when I was doing these slides, at the bottom you can actually see a screenshot from when I was making these slides. And as you can see, the Google Slides in this case, I guess PowerPoint does the same thing, Google Slides was actually suggesting what should be the next word. So I typed, where does the magic come? And it knew that I will probably come up with the word from in the next step. So this is something I got used to, because when I'm a developer, my editor just keeps suggesting me like next word or next two words. And this is where Copilot comes in. So Copilot is kind of a next generation of autocompletion. It doesn't just complete like 1 or 2 words, but as a developer, when I type even like a single line, so in this case, the first line here is written by me, the GitHub Copilot, which is yet another AI tool, the GitHub Copilot will actually suggest the whole block of code. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code. And these 5 lines of code are actually correct, even though if I look precisely what it does, I think it's actually very inefficient. But that's not the point. But it does give me a suggestion. So GitHub Copilot is like a next generation of autocompletion. There's nothing There's nothing wrong with using it. I am a GitHub Copilot user myself, and I actually enjoy it, even though it can sometimes create code that's inefficient, insecure, or just plainly incorrect. So GitHub Copilot works the same way as ChatGPT, but it was trained on source code only. So only for, it's like targeting developers only. It's not as general purpose as ChatGPT. So here you have a bunch of examples how AI actually helps us developers, AI and some more like smart features. But that's not everything, because essentially these tools, the only thing that these tools do is helping us solving trivial problems or things that are easy to guess. And if you can move on from here,
so exactly. So when you think about like the OpenAI and ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot producing code, remember that this code can be as good as some answers like given by the ChatGPT, but it can also be as bad as this, like salmons in the river. Like it looks pretty good, but it's not what we asked for. And basically, the problem is that like the AI is able to like suggest and give answers based on the data sets that it was trained by. So like we basically, AI works in a way where we're giving like Wikipedia to read, and then we can ask questions from Wikipedia, and AI is able to answer them. But if there is some answer that is not present in the Wikipedia, then AI will have like difficulties with answering that, or we just answer it wrong based on some wrong assumptions and do that. So basically, we know that AI and ChatGPT is great at solving like, let's say, simple problems that are already solved and that you can find right now even on Stack Overflow. Because before Copilot and before ChatGPT, developers were just looking for these solutions on the Stack Overflow and adapting or translating them from one technology to another using like their own skills. Right now, like ChatGPT can try to do that. However, the question is, if you are paying developers for resolving problems that are already solved. Now, I'm not sure, like, why should I pay Tomek to write a code if this code already exists? Then it's much cheaper and much faster to just buy it, right? So
yeah, ChatGPT is now free, but it will be like $42 per month, and I think I can.
It's still cheaper than you. So like,
I think I can reveal it's cheaper than me. Yeah,
almost for free. So yeah, but basically like that's the case, right? So like we are not paying developers to like resolve problems that were resolved from like 40 or 50 years. Basically, we are paying them for do creative thing and just glue some existing solutions to produce a new one. And now, Tomek, like the problem with the recruitment is that if recruitment is not following the same assumptions, so in the tech recruitment, we are not like asking people to, let's say, do these things that we want them to do, but instead of that, we ask them to resolve problems were like already resolved for like hundreds of years. I would say that's the problem, because then our recruitment process is not reflecting the reality, which means it's wrong. And like some examples of such, like I would call it old school or like classical or wrong recruitment process or screening processes are like often used by very big companies. So assuming that right now you're applying to Facebook and you want to like work for Facebook as a software developer, even after all layoffs, etc. So how you would prepare yourself for such an interview?
Yeah, so it's not really a mystery to any of you that the recruitment processes, especially to large companies, are somewhat well known, and even for smaller companies, they often just copycat whatever the large ones are doing. So let me just walk you through how a typical developer or a lazy developer or not skilled enough developer can bypass all the mechanisms you have for pre-screening, screening, and recruiting. So let's say you're applying to, I don't know, Facebook. I was taking these screenshots earlier today. And so I just Googled for Facebook software engineer interview questions, 72 million results. That is to be expected. I'm just clicking on the first one because, well, whatever, and going through it. So let's move on. And yeah, this is the website. Scrolling a bit of SEO garbage, and then I get into the actual question. Given an array of blah, 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 let's assume I'm not a developer and I have no idea what it says. Because it really makes no difference. It's a fairly standard algorithmic question. It's not easy. It's not hard. It's something that I would expect from Google. There are actually like a few dozens of other questions here, so I'm just picking the first one. And what I do, assuming that I have absolutely no idea what they're asking me for, it sounds like Chinese to me. Well, I go to ChatGPT and I just copy paste this. And here's what I actually cut the introduction that ChatGPT gave me because it was actually explaining to me in plain English what the solution should be. So what kind of algorithm should I use, how it works, and so on and so forth. I just cut it to fit on the screen. And what it gave me in the end is the actual solution. And let's assume I know nothing about programming. It actually gave me a solution in Python. If we need a solution in different language, I could just clarify that. But it gave me a piece of code. And the funny part is that not only this piece of code was fairly well explained by ChatGPT, it's actually correct and it's optimal. It also gives me what you see at the bottom. It says something about complexity or the time complexity, space complexity, whatever. Even if I don't know what it means, I'm pretty sure that every recruiter in Facebook will ask me that question. What is the time complexity? What is the space complexity of the algorithm? And guess what? Voila, it's already there. So in this case, because the ChatGPT was given a fairly standard task, it managed to give me a solution. But the point is that it's not as straightforward as simply copy pasting the solution from the internet, because this is something that you can find in the internet. So chances are this is just a copy of some solution found somewhere. So there's nothing fancy here. However, if I asked the ChatGPT to translate it to a different language, because I'm applying not for a Python developer, but for a C# developer, it would do it flawlessly. At least that's what I would hope. If they slightly changed the text of this program so that there's like a different scenario, different conditions, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT would work as well. So it's not just copying whatever it found on the internet. There is a little bit of intelligence here. So I have to be clear with that. Even if the task is slightly more complex. So let me show you yet another example, which I assume that we are all not developers, so we don't understand, but it says something about scheduling rooms or meeting intervals, whatever. Let's assume I have no idea what it says here. So I just copy pasted it to ChatGPT, and lo and behold, here's the solution. I tested it and it works. I didn't even look through it. I didn't even read the code. To be honest, I'm not really a Python developer because it's Python code, but it seems to be working. And also it gave me, but I cut it from here, but it also gave me a fairly well explanation, like what algorithms were used, why it works, and so on and so forth. So in all these cases, notice that because the tasks are like very well defined, very well, and actually very small, and they require essentially to write like a snippet of code, and either you can do it or can't, the ChatGPT managed to solve a screening task together with some narrative, like what algorithms were used, why this is a good solution or not. It managed to essentially to pass the recruitment task, because when I'm looking at this code, it's actually fairly good. It can actually work. And once again, this is not a copy paste from the internet. It managed to kind of understand the problem and figure out what is the solution, just based on whatever was available. Yep.
Maybe these are like the problems that are Facebook they are resolving on a daily basis. That's why they realize it makes no sense to keep developers, and it's better to pay $42 for like OpenAI. That's why the layoffs are like, Google, Facebook, etc. They realize, okay, a lot of stuff can be done by OpenAI, so let's like fire them.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I understand that you're joking, but that's the thing, because their recruitment process is most likely very disconnected from what they actually do at work, and they obviously don't give you their real piece of code because it's proprietary. So instead, they are using these generic things that can easily be solved by a non-human. So why would you need a developer in the first place? But to be honest, this is not only the problem with developers and with software development. So just a few days ago, I read that ChatGPT managed to pass the MBA exam. So this is an exam where you have to like write a piece of text, explain some case studies, and so on and so forth. Turns out probably there are so many use cases and so many sample exams in the internet and so much knowledge that it managed to actually pass the exam, which is supposed to be really, really hard. And another example of a slightly different tool, it's called a text-to-image class of tools, which are capable of creating images from a text. So in this case, an artist, or it wasn't really an artist, or was he? So an artist asked this artificial intelligence algorithm to create like a sci-fi picture of a bunch of people staring at, and so on and so forth. It generated an image, and it actually won some artist contest, which like made other artists really angry. But as far as I can tell, this image is actually really pretty. So, well, what is art anyway, and what is like the real software development anyway? So these two examples actually show you that it's not just a toy. It's a tool that is actually pretty remarkable in things it can do. And if we don't do anything about it, it might be the case that, for example, that we are hiring people who can barely copy paste questions from whatever you gave them in your exam into a ChatGPT prompt or whatever tool appears in the future, just because we didn't rethink the way we do recruitment. So moving on.
I'm just wondering
Yep.
how many different artists just like also generated, a painting with OpenAI, and then just repainted that, saying, "Yeah, it's us, it's ours." So yeah,
they were angry because all of them were generated, but apparently one of the artists had it generated better.
Just, yeah, I will skip the repainting part. It looks pretty good. So that's also like pretty probable. So
and by the way, since we're here, you might be wondering: is it actually possible to somehow figure out whether a given like piece of art or piece of code was generated by AI? It's an ongoing research, so it's somewhat possible, but it's never 100% accurate. So it's not as easy as just running the candidate solution through some machine and it tells us that this is not really plagiarism, but something that was auto-generated.
Google is trying to do that just to like improve the SEO, because right now a lot of articles are like pretty like boring stuff generated by ChatGPT to fulfill all of the SEO requirements, and like they are trying to overcome this problem, and that's like, it looks like a serious problem. And the question is like, are we doomed? Which means like, okay, we know that OpenAI and ChatGPT is writing the articles. It's being able to resolve and pass the MBA exam. The question is like how the future will look like. So when I think about that from the perspective of like a business owner, I'm thinking if like what parts of the job can be like automated by the usage of the ChatGPT. And the first thing is that if you have a problem, let's say that is talent management, right? Reduced internal mobility. That's our problem that we are trying to resolve. Then like inventing the solution to this problem is not a simple stuff. By the way, you can try and you can ask OpenAI, what do you suggest as a solution to this problem? And it's able to suggest some solutions. However, these solutions are like very, very like, sometimes simple, and I would call even like stupid. It's like, what we can do to like boost the internal mobility? Oh, let's create a program that is boosting like internal mobility. Like, great. Like, it's like sounds like an MBA solution. However, that's not what we aim for. We are looking for the real solutions, like new solutions, innovative solutions to this problem. And that's something that AI cannot do for us. The next question is, if you are, let's say, starting a startup and you want to have a new mobile application that is helping people to relax or whatever, like, is AI able to write this application for you? No, like, you cannot just say like, hey, dear OpenAI, please implement this application for me. I was even trying to do that with OpenAI, and I asked OpenAI, "Can you implement a block engine in Java?" And AI said, "Yeah, it's possible to implement a block engine in Java." So I said, "Okay, can you do that?" And AI said, "Yeah, of course, it can be done." I said, "Okay, so please implement it in Java and Spring Boot." And AI one more time said, "Yeah, it's possible to implement the Java engine with these technologies." I said, "Okay, write a code for me." And then OpenAI said, "No, I'm not able to do that. It's too complicated. I would need to know more about the product. I would need to understand what you're trying to do, etc." So as you can see, it's not like that OpenAI will resolve everything and it's like able to do that. If you will say, okay, resolve this complex problem for me, AI will just start, saying buzzwords, and then it will just basically say, no, like, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, guy.
Well, defending the AI a little bit. If you ask it to create like a very sample, we tend to call it "Hello World" application, which like has almost no functionality, but it's basically working. It's fine for that, and it is useful if I want to like start writing code from scratch. AI can create that scratch for me, and I can begin writing business logic. But it won't create business logic or meaningful business logic in most of the cases. So it is a useful tool, and people using, for example, Copilot claim that they save a few % of their time every day, which is a lot, actually, considering how expensive developers are. So it actually can produce a significant and useful pieces of code, even writing like a skeleton of the application, so like initial phase of the application, but it won't give you the whole thing. It will just take you much more time fixing things that do not work as you expected.
Yeah, it works like following the tutorials, right? So it's like, let's start a new tutorial for writing small application in Ruby, and then like you can follow a 15 minutes tutorial on YouTube, or you can use OpenAI to implement that. But that's not all, right? Then let's assume that we paid some real people to develop this application. Then this application is developed. So the question is if AI can resolve some simple bugs. And yes, it can. Like if it's a very simple bug, there is something wrong with the code syntax, you forgot to add an exclamation mark or something like this, that's something that can be done by the AI, and probably there will be some like tools or the usage of the GitHub Copilot to resolve the simple problem. So sometimes we have like an automated tool to do some like a basic verification of the code quality, and they are called like static analysis tool, and probably there will be static analysis tool, or maybe there already exist to use an OpenAI to do that. However, if we talk about the more like complex business oriented problems, so why this person is not able to log in into the system, why this person is not able to complete the onboarding, why I cannot like add this user, or I cannot see this user in this combo box. That's something that AI cannot do, because you need to understand the whole application, you need to understand the logic, and build a mental model of this application in your head, just to figure out, okay, that's because only fully let's say onboarded users are visible in this combo box. Is it good or bad? We don't know. It depends. Like in the IT and in development, you have a lot of trade-offs that you need to do and figure out. So that's something that AI cannot do for us right now. And now, like, what do we mean by like the complex project, by like sophisticated problem, business-oriented problems, etc.? Tomek, if you could just like elaborate a little bit about how the like daily basis developer work looks like.
Yeah, so let me explain what you see on the screen, and it's not really that much important in every detail, but this is kind of an editor I use on a daily basis. And as you can see, there are like plenty of different things. You can actually pop up much more. But there's like a bunch of files on the left-hand side. There's history on the right-hand side. On the bottom, I can run some scripts or run some tests. And the actual typing part, so the actual part where I do the coding, is somewhere in the middle. And this is like a somewhat typical view that I would see from 9 to 5 every day. And I'm fine with that. So this is a complex project. It contains hundreds, maybe even thousands of files spread across tens or hundreds of directories. It has a long history with a lot of changes by multiple people. So in real life, I do not write a program that can be explained in one sentence and it can be implemented in 10 or 15 lines of code. So examples that you saw earlier. In real life, I'm actually solving a much kind of a higher level problems. And of course, I do have to type this code. I do have to spread this code across these thousands of files, but the real life work, the real life project in every single company, in every single in every single organization, always is always related to a big systems where you have to understand the full picture, where you have to understand the business requirements, trade-offs, and so on and so forth. So that's why the typical recruitment style, where you are given a task in like 1 or 2 sentences and then it can be implemented in like a single snippet of code, it's not very representative when it comes to recruitment. So these are typically algorithmic tasks, and by algorithmic I mean you have to solve rather artificial problem like the one you saw previously, like there is a list of numbers and do some multiplication of numbers, blah blah blah. Or another was something about scheduling meetings, where a meeting is a sequence of numbers with start 1, end 1, start 2, end 2, and so on and so forth. These are rather contrived examples, and I'm not saying that these are simple tasks. I'm just saying because very often they're quite complex to solve and they require many years of studies and many books read. But I'm just saying that this is not a typical problem that you will encounter in your daily work. So once again, this is what I see like from 9 to 5, basically at a daily work. So this is how this is how a typical program looks like, irrespective to a programming language or whatever. And how would I like to see my technical screening or technical recruitment tasks? So how can we, coming back to the actual subject of this webinar, what can we do to make our recruitment process a little bit more safe when it comes to ChatGPT, so that it's not as straightforward to just copy paste the question and paste the solution back, and also make the recruitment task more enjoyable? Because after all, we want developers to take part in the recruitment process. We don't want them to abandon the process, and we don't want them to get annoyed or bored when they're doing yet another rather abstract test. So what we suggest, and the thing that works really well for us, is that rather than giving people these abstract, fairly boring, and as you already saw, fairly easy to find in the internet tasks, just come up with something that is much closer to what you do at work. So try to, in your recruitment process, try to simulate what developers are actually doing in your particular company. So if it's like finding bugs and fixing the software, give them a task with a more or less real life project. Don't give them your real code, obviously, because you can't do it, but come up with a real software project that looks somewhat like your ordinary work, and ask a developer to find a bug or add a non-existing feature or come up with a solution to something. These are the things that require more kind of context. So these are the things that require thinking outside of the box. You cannot just like copy paste the whole project into ChatGPT and expect it to kind of look around and figure out what is the best place to make changes. Like what is the overall picture? The AI tools aren't there yet. Maybe there will be one day, but at the moment, this problem, the problem of like looking through the full picture, isn't yet addressed by these tools. And this is what we propose, and this is what we find much better, is that when you're giving a task to a candidate, just make this task as real life as possible, which means it's a large-ish project, which looks like a real project they would work in the company. Ideally, this would be the same code base as they use in real world, but that's typically not possible. And this is our solution. And the editor that you see here and the previous one are almost the same. These are actually the same tools, but the thing that you saw on the previous slide was my personal editor when I was doing some development. And what you see on this slide is the recruitment task, one of the recruitment tasks that we give to candidates. And as you can see, this is almost the same. And that's the point. So the candidate should feel like at home. The candidate shouldn't be kind of alienated because suddenly he or she is supposed to solve some imaginary problems with lists, matrices, trees, whatever. We receive a really cool project, and we can work on that project. And the recruitment process is actually enjoyable. It feels like hacking. It feels like solving real world problem. Kuba, you want to add something to that?
Yeah. So like, just when you think about hiring developers, think about the situation when you are trying to hire a financial director or a CFO to your company. And just by paraphrasing the current situation on the market with the developer recruiter, imagine that you are like hiring this CFO and you are giving this person tasks that consist of calculating integrals and derivatives. And this person is using the ChatGPT to resolve that and providing you with the solution. You can be angry that this person just, I don't know, like cheated you or something, and it is, and use the automated tool to do that. But it's not the real problem. The real problem is that if this person will be calculating the derivatives, integrals, etc. on a daily basis, then that would make this person a perfect match for your company, because it means that this person will be far more effective than the others not using the GPT, right? The problem is that you are angry because this person is not going to calculate derivatives and integrals on a daily basis, but will build a financial reports and a budget and the forecasts for your company. And then, of course, ChatGPT won't do it for this person. So you verify if this person is able to do task A, while on the daily basis, this person will never do the task A, will be doing a task B, where ChatGPT is not useful. So that's why you feel cheated. And the same applies to software developers. If you are thinking about like using, let's say, software or testing software developers against algorithms like inverting a binary tree, sorting the arrays or something like this, that's the task A. Task A that this person you will hire will never ever do on a daily basis, because these are problems that are already resolved. And we are using ChatGPT, we are using Copilot, we are using Stack Overflow, or just libraries or the frameworks to resolve these problems on a daily basis. So
I would actually say that I expect my teammates to use tools like Copilot and ChatGPT if it makes them faster. It's a good investment of their time.
Yeah. But if you verify people against the task A and people are able to use ChatGPT, etc., to task A, and you never expect them to work with this task A on a daily basis because they will be focused on task B, then that's not the candidate who is cheating you. That's your recruitment process that is basically wrong from scratch. And that's like basically what we are like I believe is the most important. If you are interested in like learning now, you can always write to us at hello@devskiller.com. You can write to me at jacob.kubrinski@devskiller.com, and we are happy to talk to you and like show you how this approach works far better than the algorithmic interviews, especially right now. Like, to be honest, these algorithmic interviews were not effective for the years. So DevSkiller was founded almost 10 years ago, because then we find out that algorithmic interviews are not useful. And right now that GPT chat shows, yeah, you are right. So you won. So that's how it works. And now we have also like a few seconds for the Q&A session. So if you have any questions related to technical recruitment, related to ChatGPT in general, OpenAI in general, development work as a general or DevScare tool, then just like feel free to write the questions, and we'll be happy to go through them. And remember that all the time you can like reach out to ask and talk. And yeah, right now let's wait a few 30 seconds for the questions. And if there won't be questions, and we'll just end the webinar. So yeah, just waiting a few more seconds. We've also like pasted the link to our digital skills and IT skills report, where you can find many different like useful information, and also like the our latest ebook about the impact of the chat GPT. And if someone from the team can paste also the link to the digital skills reports, it will be also great. Okay, I see there are no questions, so thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I see that almost all people who joined us at the beginning stayed until the very end, so like thanks for that. Have a nice day, and yeah, see you on our next webinars. Bye bye.
Very cool to talk to you. Bye.